In part 1 of the sofa cover, I pinned the inside back to the seat portion of the sofa, as well as the pleats on the side. Now here, I've sewn those pieces together, and I'll put it back on the sofa just to check and make sure the fit is good. Now as you can see, it fits pretty good. I decided to redo the pleats on the side because I didn't like the way they looked when I began to sew them. So here I'm pinning them again. Here's a close-up of what the pleats look like once they've been pinned together. Here, the sofa inside back is pinned to the back, as well as the armrest and the sides of the sofa. This was a really big project, so some parts I did not videotape me actually pinning the parts together. So I'm just giving you a visual of what it looked like once I got everything pinned. And here on the back, you can see that there's actually 2 pieces of fabric. And these 2 pieces will be self-faced, and they will be the opening in the back of the sofa cover, and they will be velcroed together with ties on the outside for easy removal. Now here are the center back, the side, and the arm all connected together. I cut extra fabric to allow for the hem all the way around the cover. Now here's a close-up of what the side pleats look like once they've been pinned and connected to the back. So now the cover is ready to be removed with the pin still intact, so it can be marked for sewing. Now I'm going to take my chalk. You go back to where you saw that I had everything pinned, but you notice I've got it pinned the wrong sides together. I did that for the fit. So this time I'm taking a big piece of chalk. I'm going to chalk everywhere there's a pin. I'm going to make sure that I'm chalking both sides. So I'm going to chalk this all the way around, and then I'm going to take it apart and I'll flip it, and then I'm going to sew it together because that'll show me everywhere I need to sew. Now I've got the back pinned to the sides and it's all pinned together. So now we're just going to sew it up. It's kind of difficult to show this to you because once you take it off, it looks really crazy. It doesn't look like much of nothing. So I have to put it on the couch in order for you to see it. But I'm going to go ahead and sew right where my chalk lines are. After sewing all the pieces together, I placed the cover back on the sofa. Now for the pleats, I just cut one long piece of fabric and I connected it to each side of the sofa cover. But before doing that, I hemmed one of the short ends, so that way when I attached the pleats, they would be all finished. Now for the pleating, I did what you call guess pleating, and that means I just kind of pleated and guessed at the distance in between the pleats all across the front. And when I finished pinning it, I just stood back and see where I needed to make adjustments, and then I went back and did just that. This video doesn't show it, but I removed the cover and I stitched down the pleats and attached them to the front of the seat base. Then I pressed the pleats down. Now it's time to cover the cushion. I taped several pieces of newspapers together long ways and horizontally to make one long piece for the pattern. But I took a thin marker and I just outlined where my mark would be, where the piping is. I cut out 1 inch wider, or 1 inch seam allowance, after I made my marking all the way around. I have my fabric doubled, and I'm going to lay my pattern out on my fabric, and I'm going to cut 2, one for the top and one for the bottom. As you see, the cushion has a nice wide band. The band measures 5 inches. I'm going to cut 6-inch wide strips. When I measured the band for the section that doesn't have a zipper, it measured 37.5, and then I'm going to leave like 2 inches on each side just to be on the safe side. So I'm going to cut one piece that is 6 inches wide by 42. Now the zipper section is a little different because you have 2 pieces here. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are 3.5 inches wide, which is about 1 inch larger than a 6-inch piece. I measured my zipper sections, and from one zipper section to the other it measures 53 inches. So I'm going to cut this piece 53, and you got to allow 1 inch on each side. So I'm going to cut it 55 by 3.5 inches. Now in measuring the band that is going to join the 2 pieces in the piping, we're measuring from the zipper all the way around till we come back to the other section where the zipper is. and that measures 102 inches. So I'm going to cut one piece that's 6 inches by 102. Now in cutting my 6-inch wide piece, my client's fabric is not quite long enough or wide enough to go all the way around without interruption. So what I've done is I've cut one long piece that will start here just behind where the cushion rides up in, and then I've measured from there all the way around to the other side in the same position. So I'm going to add a piece and connect it, but the seam is going to fall right behind this section where it goes up into the couch. So now we have the strip cut that's going to connect our two sections together, top and bottom. And we also have our two strips that are going to be for our zipper. What's next to cut is our bias strips. And the reason we're cutting bias strips is because we need to cover our piping. And I've done a previous video, so you'll have to check that out. I'll put a link so you can see how we make that. So you want to lay the piping with the piping section toward the seat and line your seam allowances. Do not start at the very end because you need to join this, and I'm going to show you just how to do that. And this is sewn on again with the zipper foot, so I'm going to adjust the zipper foot this time to ride it on the opposite side. And now we're just going to follow this all the way around. I wanted to show you what it looked like once we've added the piping. Now you see the piping has been attached, and see when you roll it, look at how nice and neat that looks. The reason why the piping is cut on the bias is because you have these curves, and when you got these curves, when you start to sew the piping down, you can stretch it and mold it. See how you just mold it around? And you see, and once you get to a curve, see how nice the curve is? Now we're back to where we started. So I'm going to show you how to finish this off. And what I'm going to do, as you see the beginning portion here where we started, what we're going to do is I'm going to open that back up with the seam ripper. So I've got it open back up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all of this off till about right here. Just leave just a small amount. And what we're going to do with that is you're going to take this portion and fold it in to make like a seam, and you're going to lay the piping on top of it. So now you're going to take this portion before you cut it, and you're going to lay it down so that it rides on top of that piping as well. And I'm going to cut it about right here. And now that I've cut it there, and I did that because I wanted to make sure I had enough. Because what we're going to do is we're going to ride these on top just like that. But you want the two pieces of piping to butt up. So now I'm going to cut it a little bit more right here. So now that I've got it cut, I want the pipings to butt up to each other. So I'm also going to take this piece of piping and I'm going to cut it right there as well. Now that I've got it cut, you're going to remember you've got your fold edge, so you want this side of the piping to lay on top, and you're going to wrap this around both pieces and make sure your pipings butt up. And this time I am going to put a pin to hold all those layers together. So now I'm going to run my stitch right across there to keep it continuous. So now you see, you join the piping. This is on the inside of the cushion that goes to the back of the couch, so you won't see it anyway. So isn't that nice and neat? The piping has been attached to the top and the bottom of the cushion cover. Now we're going to attach the zipper. Click the link to check out my video on how to install an upholstery zipper or a centered zipper. I pinned the zipper section to the band section of the cushion, and I'm going to stitch those in place on both sides. Now we're ready to attach this to the top and the bottom portion of the pillow. I've got the band all pinned in all the way around, so now we're going to sew it. And when you sew it, you're going to use your zipper foot, and you're just going to sew right next to the piping. I've sewn the pieces together with the piping. You want to unzip it. Now one thing I forgot to mention, so make sure you leave an opening so you can put your hand in and then unzip your zipper. And we can turn it on the right side and see how neat that looks. There we have the piping on both sides. There's the top portion of the cushion and the bottom portion. So now we're just ready to put the pillow inside of the cushion cover. So the cover is ready, and here's our cushion. And I've got the cushion inside of the cover. So now I'm just going to zip the cover. And see, we got a nice finish. I finished the cover. As you see, I have the cushion covered, have the little pleats on the bottom. And the wonderful thing about this cover is it's washable. This is the back of the couch cover. As you see, I have 5 little ties going down the center, but there's also Velcro to keep it together, and the ties are pretty much for decoration and to get it a nice little tightness to it. All the seams on the inside were serged, so she can toss this in the washing machine because it is cotton. So I'm very proud of this, and I hope that this project has inspired you to tackle a cover or a couch or a chair in your house.